the state health benefits plan, OMNIA plan option, or the tiered network option. It is significantly less in premium than the Direct 10 and the Direct 15 plans. So we want everybody just to learn about the plan a little bit so that you can make an educated decision if it's something that you think you'd want to choose to enroll in for 2025, just because the 2025 premiums through the state are going up significantly. So we want everybody just to know what their options are. And the Omnia plan is a very good option. It might not be the best option for everybody, but we want to be able to give you all of the information so that you can make an informed decision for you and your family.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. And just to take it from there, we are going to be reviewing the Omnia and the Liberty Plus plan. Omnia is under Horizon, Liberty Plus is under Aetna. The benefits and the rates are the same. The only difference would be the carrier network. So you'd be essentially making a decision whether or not you'd like to have Horizon, which most of you seem to have. And we'll focus on Omnia today for the purposes of this meeting. But you're really, if you're choosing between Omnia and Liberty Plus, you're making the decision whether or not you'd like Aetna or Horizon. And most of you from the meeting that we had in person as well, I know are in Direct 10. So we'll focus our, as we refer to plans today via Omnia and via Direct 10. As I said, both plans are offered by Horizon and Aetna. The differences being that the carrier network is different, so you're choosing in between Horizon and Aetna. For the Horizon plans, they utilize the same network of doctors. So anyone that's in network today under Direct 10 is going to be in the network for you under the Omnia plan. It utilizes the Horizon Managed Care Network. So it has the same network of doctors in New Jersey and nationally that you have under your Direct 10 plan now. If you're choosing the Aetna version, which is Liberty Plus, the Freedom 10 uses the Aetna Choice POS2 network, but the Liberty Plus does use a different network of doctors for their Liberty Plus plan. So if you are going to make a change into Aetna and from Freedom 10 to Liberty Plus, it's important that you note that those two networks are different. So please make sure that you are double checking that those providers that are in network for you under Freedom 10, that they are going to be in network for you under the Liberty Plus plan. As Julie said, the contribution amounts for the Omnia plan are lower than those in the Direct 10 plan. And the prescription copay amounts are different as well, which we will get into in a slide that we have coming up talking about prescription. This is your annual open enrollment opportunity. Employees can choose any of the plans that are being offered by the state every October for an effective January 1st date. So if you do make the decision to switch into the Omnia plan, for example, you would be committing for the entirety of 2025. Next open enrollment in October, if you wanted to switch back to Direct 10 or to any of the other options that are being offered, you can do so then for an effective January 1st of 2026 date. So again, every year you do have the opportunity to switch plans. So just to do some side-by-side comparisons, and again, we'll focus on Direct 10 and Omnia. Both plans don't have an in-network deductible. Omnia is an in-network only plan, so the network of doctors is divided between Tier 1 and Tier 2. So under Direct 10, you have no in-network deductible currently. Under Omnia, if you're visiting a doctor in Tier 1, for example, that tier has no deductible. Out of network under Direct 10, you have your $100 for an individual or $250 deductible for a family. In Omnia, if you go to a Tier 2 provider, you have a $1,500 deductible for an individual or a $3,000 deductible for a family. And one of the questions that we get is, how is the network divided? So the network is divided into two tiers, Tier 1 and Tier 2. About 70% of the doctors that are in the Direct 10 network are in Tier 1. Tier 2 doctors, that other 30% would be of that network. So again, it's the same network of doctors. They just split it down a 70-30 split between Tier 1 and Tier 2, and that's how they arrange the doctors there for Omnia. Your maximum out of pockets are a little different as well. Currently, and again, this is the maximum that you would lay out in a calendar year. You do have different limits for in and out of network as well as Tier 1 and Tier 2. So in network, for an individual under Direct 10, it's $400 versus, and I apologize, I forgot to go to the slide, sorry. In network for an individual for your out-of-pocket max, it is $400. For an individual, for a family, it is $1,000. And again, this is in network. Out of network, it's $2,000 and $5,000. Under Omnia, tier 1, and again, maximum out of pocket, so the most that you would spend in a calendar year for an individual would be $2,500 or $4,500 for a family. Under tier 2, it would be either $5,000 or $9,000, again, under tier 2. The copay structures are a little different. So under your Direct 10, you pay a $10 copay when going to a primary care physician. But under Omnia, tier 2 is a $5 copay. Tier 1, excuse me, is a $5 copay. Tier 2 is a $20 copay. If you go to a specialist, again, $10 under your Direct 10. But under Omnia, it would be a $15 copay for those tier 1 providers or a $30 copay for those tier 2 providers. In the meantime, if you have any questions, also please feel free to put them in through the chat. We are answering them as we go through the presentation, so please feel free to submit your questions there as well. Your inpatient admission copay under Direct 10 is zero, it's covered 100%. Under Omnia, you do have a $150 copay, and then your services inpatient would be covered 100%. Tier 2, however, is an 80% coverage after your deductible is met. Emergency room copays go up a little slightly under Omnia. It's $75 under your Direct 10 versus Omnia, which would be $100. Outpatient surgery functions the same way as inpatient admission, where under Direct 10, it's covered 100% in network, 80% after your deductible out of network. And under Omnia, it would be 100% after your $150 copay. And tier 2 would be $80 after your deductible is met. Your labs are the same in both plans, LabCorp and Quest, covered 100% in network and in tier 1. Out of network, they would be under Direct 10 subject to your 80% and your deductible. And in tier 2, they are covered 100% as well. Again, both labs in both plans, Quest and LabCorp, are the same. Any questions so far about medical, please feel free to put it through the chat there. And just to touch upon prescription, your prescription varies slightly as far as your copays, where you currently pay $3 for generic copays under Direct 10. Under Omnia, that would be $7. Your preferred brand copays go from $10 in Direct 10 to $16 in Omnia. And your non-preferred brands, these are brands that usually have a generic equivalent available, are $10 under Direct 10 and $35 under Omnia. These are the copays that you would get at retail for a 30-day fill. But for mail order, for example, it is a $0 copay for generics, which I highly recommend if you're looking to stay even in your Direct 10. Highly encourage everyone to utilize the mail order service. If you are someone that has chronic diseases such as high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, and you're going to be on medication for the foreseeable future, highly encourage everyone to utilize the mail order because you're going to get a 90-day fill for generics. It's going to be delivered to your home at a $0 copay. So highly encourage everyone to utilize that if you haven't already. Your preferred brands for mail order go from $15 in Direct 10 to $40 in Omnia, and non-preferred brands are $15 in Direct 10 and $88 in Omnia. So again, while you are saving money by switching into Omnia, there are plan differences, as we just mentioned. So you do have the differential on the fact that Omnia has no out-of-network, unless it's in the case of a true medical emergency. And you do have these differences in prescription as far as what your copays would be. But on average, as we were discussing in the in-person meeting a couple of weeks ago, you are going to be saving about 30% in your contributions by switching from Direct 10 to Omnia. So very important that you make a note of that. I'm seeing a question here in the chat on the summary. Why doesn't it mention LabCorp in the description for OP for Direct 10 versus Omnia? What's the difference there? I'm not sure what you mean as far as for OP. And I'll go back to this graph here. You have LabCorp and Quests as your in-network labs. They're covered the same in both plans in the sense that they're both in-network labs under both plans. And again, depending on the plan and whether you're in or out of the network or tier 1 or tier 2, the coverage would be dependent on that. Someone else is asking, I am currently in Direct 10. My primary doctors are through Everside Health and Marathon Health Network. This provider does not charge a copay for office visits. Will this provider be available under OMNIA? This network of doctors is exactly the same. So from that standpoint, if they're in network now, they're going to be in network under OMNIA. I am not sure why they're not charging you a copay, because technically they should be charging you either a $10 copay for either whether you're seeing a primary care or a specialist there. I know that for your annual physical, they do not charge you a copay. So maybe that's what you could be referring to. But they are definitely, if you're going for a sick visit, they are definitely supposed to be charging you a $10 copay. Under Omnia, that would be, whether, again, it would depend on whether you're seeing a specialist or a primary care there. Your copay would be based on that. Outpatient, the person who asked the question about LabCorp. Yes, the labs are both the same for both plans. So LabCorp is the lab for both Direct 10 and Omnia, as well as Quest. Another question that we see here, can you discuss referrals needed with Omnia? There are no referrals required. Omnia is also a PPO plan in the sense that you do not need referrals from your primary care physician in order to go to a specialist. Any specialist that's in the network, you can go to that specialist without a problem and pay your applicable copay. Good question there. And as I was segueing into the contribution savings, we put together this small graph, but I know Stephanie shared a much more in-depth graph with many more salary brackets. But we just used an average salary of 50,000 just to show what the annual contributions would be for a single, to adult and family plan, what it would cost for the employee versus what it would cost under the Omnia plan. And as you can see, the savings are significant and about 30% less moving into Omnia from your Direct 10. But again, there are plan differences that you do need to be aware of. One of the other questions that we got a lot when we were there in person is how do you do a search for providers? So again, if you're staying in the world of Horizon, you would go to the horizonblue.com/doctor finder. Right from their homepage, even if you go to just horizonblue.com, you'll see the doctor finder there right on the homepage. You would click on that and you would get a screen like this. You don't even have to sign in. You can search as a guest and you can search for any type of either primary care, specialists, urgent care, which I highly recommend. The utilization of urgent care versus going to the emergency room, because you as the member will save more money. You'll save a lot more time because urgent care will, for most situations that they handle, will get you out of there faster than the emergency room. And again, there's a cost savings there. But when you do the search on the Horizon website, you'll arrive at this page. And if you're searching for Omnia, you would type in, you would select Omnia as your plan. And I did a search for this webinar for primary care physicians in and around Paterson. This was the first result that I got. And I just wanted to show everybody what it kind of looks like. So this doctor is a tier 1 provider, for example. It'll say tier 1 there for that provider. So it's important that you, when you're searching for those providers, if you want to see whether they fall under tier 1 or tier 2, the search on Horizon's website is very distinct and will show you those differences. If this doctor was a tier 2 provider, it would say tier 2. So that's how you would do the search. Horizonblue.com, find a doctor, and then from with there you can narrow your search to wherever you live, as well as the type of doctor or facility that you're searching for to see if they're in network. This is a map of the hospitals in the area. I know it's a little bit small. I know, Stephanie, we got you a copy of this, so hopefully if you don't have it, you can get a copy from Stephanie about it. But for example, your Hackensack Hospital, St. Joe's there in Paterson, St. Joe's in Wayne, those are all tier 1 hospitals. So we did that search and we provided that as well. We actually, in the search that we provided, Stephanie, that has been distributed, we did a search of a 25-mile radius of all the participating hospitals. But again, because it's the same doctor, the same network of providers as Horizon, as your Direct 10, any hospital that you're seeing now is going to be either in tier 1 or tier 2. For those of you that are looking to do the search within the Aetna world, you would go to Aetna.com and you would, and we have this link that we also shared with Stephanie that can be shared again if need be. You would go to the search and you would be selecting the multi-tier New Jersey Aetna Whole Health Network. That is the network for their Liberty Plus version of OMNIA, if you will. And when you do the search, they divide their tier between maximum savings would be their tier 1, standard savings would be their tier 2. And this is how the search would appear. And I actually use that same provider in Paterson just to show a difference. His office in Paterson is a tier 1 or maximum savings office, but apparently he has an office in Wayne that is standard savings or tier 2. But in your search, if you're selecting the Aetna network, this is how it would appear there for you as well. Another question is, how does OMNIA handle pre-existing conditions? The same way that all the plans do. With the passing of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, there is no such thing as pre-existing conditions when it comes to your health insurance. So there's no restrictions that if you've had a chronic disease or if you've already been diagnosed with something that care is going to be denied. That's not the case under any of the plans that are being offered. Good question, though. With that said, that really brings us to the end of our presentation. And I'll just go back here to the slide comparing the plans. It's just very important that, if you're making a plan change, that you understand how the plan works and how it will work for you and your specific medical needs. Another question that we're getting here, how does the plan handle claims and reimbursement? Same way as Direct 10. Your doctor, because it's only in network coverage, your doctor who would be in network would be submitting that claim to Horizon, and they would be getting paid directly by Horizon. You as the member would only be responsible for your applicable copay, and if you're going to a tier 2 provider, your applicable deductible or co-insurance. But again, claims processing system is the same as your Direct 10. Julie or Stephanie, was there anything else that you'd like to touch upon? No. Another question that's coming in through, how does out-of-network care get handled? There is no out-of-network coverage under OMNIA. Very important to know that. I know that I've said it a few times, but it's worth repeating. There is no out-of-network coverage under the OMNIA or Liberty Plus plan unless it's the case of a true medical emergency. So that's important to know. The reason why there is a cost savings is because they've removed out-of-network from the equation under OMNIA and Liberty Plus. Plus, your copays are a little higher for prescription. So again, that's important to note that there is no out-of-network coverage under OMNIA. So if you are someone that goes out of network, there's providers that you want to continue seeing, this is not the plan option for you. And I think Julie touched upon it at the beginning of the meeting that while we want to present this as a cost savings option for members, it is certainly not a one-size-fits-all. Everyone's medical needs are different, but it's another option that's available to you that we just wanted to highlight. Person is asking, where can we find out what is considered a true medical emergency? I'll tell you that right now. A true medical emergency is defined as a threat to your life or the loss of a limb. If you feel that if you're traveling outside of the state and you feel that you're having a heart attack, that's considered a life-threatening emergency that you would go to the emergency room, they would stabilize you, and then you would be on your way. And again, it would be treated, it would be covered because it's a true medical emergency. But if you go to the emergency room because you have a sprained ankle, they don't consider that a true medical emergency. So that's an important distinction to make, that there is urgent care versus emergency care. So good question there. Another question is OMNIA taking place of an HMO for Horizon? No, Horizon and Aetna as well are both offering their HMO plans as they are. HMO plans are a little bit more restrictive where you do have to get referrals for plans, but no, this is not a replacement for that. OMNIA has been around, I believe, for the last 6 to 8 years. So it's not a new plan either. It's been around. But again, we're just presenting it as a cost savings option for members that are looking to reduce their contributions. Another question that someone is asking, if I switch to OMNIA, I no longer have a separate prescription plan through OptumRx. No, you do. OptumRx is the carrier for prescription in the state for any of the plans that you choose. But again, you would be subject to the applicable copays, and I'll go back to that slide. you'd be subject to the applicable copays for your prescriptions there under Omnia. So they do differ from what you have under Direct 10. Person is asking, EpiPen, is that covered? If so, 100%. I would highly encourage you to do the search under the OptumRx because there are multiple variations of EpiPens. EpiPen as a brand may not be covered, but there may be a generic option available. And that could be the case for both Direct 10 and Omnia. So I would highly recommend that you go to OptumRx's website. They actually have a really good feature to be able to do the search, not only to see if the drug is covered, but also if you can do the search to see what alternative generics are covered, as well as pharmacies in your area and how much the cost would be there. How flexible is Omnia for out-of-state care? If you're staying in the network, it is the same national network as Direct 10. So when you leave the state of New Jersey under Direct 10, you have what's called the Blue Card PPO network, because in every single state in the country, there is a Blue Card Blue Shield in that state. In New Jersey, it's called Horizon. In New York, they have multiple Blue Cross Blue Shields, some called Liberty, some called Empire. So it's important to know that you do have national coverage, and you'd be subject to a tier 2. Anything outside of the state of New Jersey becomes a tier 2 provider or copay. In New Jersey, you have tier 1 and tier 2. Out of state, you have tier 2 coverage. But for example, Memorial Sloan, which is an in-network facility and under Direct 10, under Omnia, it's also in network. It would fall under tier 2 because it's in the state of New York, but you do have coverage there. Very good question. Julie, Stephanie, anything else that you'd like to add, just while we wait for any other questions to maybe come through?
I think you covered everything.
No, good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Someone is asking, and I'll take this as the last question. Someone is asking, any restrictions for pre-existing conditions? Absolutely not. Pre-existing conditions went out the window when the Affordable Care Act was signed into legislation. So under any of the plans that are offered, there are no restrictions whatsoever for pre-existing conditions. With that said, I'll go back to the last slide, which has our contact information. I highly encourage everyone, if you think of anything over the weekend or next week, or really any time before open enrollment is over, feel free to give our office a call. We'd love to have a one-on-one with you. As we said, every plan is not a one-size-fits-all. Everyone's needs are different for yourself and for your family. So if there are certain questions that you'd like to ask in more detail, especially anything related to prescription drug coverage, and how that would be covered under Omnia, feel free to give us a call back. We will certainly correspond with you. If you want to send us an email, you can also do that as well. And this is Elizabeth from IMEC. Yes, somebody is asking that. And one last question that I'm seeing here, how come online prescriptions are only 30 days? I'm not sure what you're looking at, but you do have the option of 30 and 90 days. 30 days is what you would get if you go to a retail pharmacy. 90 days is what you would get through mail order. So if anything, give me a call if you're seeing something a little different than that. But again, yeah, 30 at retail, 90 at mail order. With that said, I really appreciate everyone's time today. Feel free to reach out to us. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And again, make sure that you're making your decision. If you're looking to make a change by October 31st, the state is very, that's a very hard deadline by the state. They will not accept any enrollment changes after the fact. So it's important. And the person is asking our phone number. Our phone number is what's on the screen, which is 973-450-9800. Stephanie, would you be able to resend everything out that we shared with you from the original meeting, just to make sure that everyone has all the materials as well as our contact info?
Yes, it was all sent to their department heads. So if they want any copies, they can go to the department head and the department head could provide it for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. Thank you and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.